What up, everybody? This is Kate Capella, Cat with a K, and we have all sorts of new in this video. First of all, I'm recording from my new tent that we built out in the living room behind the couch. So, yeah, and it's a little dark and eerie, and I actually think this. So, it's also a different kind of video too, because I am doing my very first conspiracy theory. It's a cartoon conspiracy theory about Ed and Eddie, and before you go running off thinking this could be about purgatory, I actually made this up myself, and just go ahead and argue about it in the comments if you want, but I'm actually kind of sticking to this theory. Now, this theory has a little bit, it's mostly involved with, the Eds, but mostly Eddie, I believe. My theory is that the whole entire show is just a flashback to everything the Eds did as a kid. That's what I think that. So we see at the end of Take This Ed and Shove It, the last episode of season 4, that the Eds are actually old and they're playing cribbage. And during that, Eddie always tells the funniest stories about when they were younger. And I think this actually plays in to some of the other episodes, because at the end, it actually shows that they're really old. It's not just Eddie's imagination, they're actually old. Now, it was expected to be the last episode of the series, but it wasn't, so I'm going off of that fact. And I'm thinking the fact the Eds had a much longer summer than should actually be. There was 4 seasons of episodes, and I have a hard time believing the first episode takes place on the first day of summer, because it seems like they already know what to do, and it seems like they might have been planning this out for a while. So I think it might have been a few days at minimum a few days into summer. So I'm thinking all of that and all the things Eddie does, he always talks about always being so cool, that's him telling the story. And the reason they're not all complete successes is he's an adult now. I mean, he wouldn't be just, trying to impress his friends. He knows they were there. He's not all trying to be cool anymore. When you're older, you laugh at stuff that you did when you were a kid. So I think as, senior citizens, they would actually probably be laughing at all the stuff that happened. And I think the whole series is just Eddie telling about their past. And before you go off and say what about the episodes where they're not the main characters? I'm curious, Ed, and what was the other one? See-No Ed. Well, they do show up eventually in both of the episodes, and the whole. See, this is why the whole plot is based off of them. Even if they're not the main characters, the whole plot is them. That's why it's also thinking that's why they're the main characters, because that's why all the plots are because of them. Without them, there would be no plot. And I mean, they're immune to nearly anything. They're in every episode. Obviously, the show is based off them. That's more proof for me that it's just Eddie telling stories. And in the episode, Laugh Ed Laugh, something like that, where everybody gets sick, the Eds are the only ones that aren't sick. Now, in the original, I think they might have actually been sick, but because they're old and Eddie doesn't want to tell a story like that, he makes up this story about them going crazy. And because Ed and Double D, they say they don't remember the stuff that well. And so I think it would be Eddie to make up a story or two. And I think and with See-No Ed, I'm imagining that he might have got figured out what had happened when they weren't there. And what else? And that's basically it. Like, that's why they seem so immune to everything, because they might not have actually been, like, they might have actually gotten seriously hurt sometimes or seriously sick, but like with the flu or something, but it's never shown because Eddie is only telling the interesting stories. Like in the episode where they're trying to send Jimmy to Japan and make him like a sumo wrestler and stuff, he falls on Ed and Eddie, and by the next episode, which according like that would probably take a few months to heal at the most, but because it's summer and at the very most the next episode takes place like maybe a week or so later. All the episodes have to happen around the same time, so they're always healed or cured by the next episode, and they're never sick or actually seriously injured to the point of which they can't do anything. Because Eddie, as an old person, he would still want to entertain his friends. Like, he wouldn't just tell them a story about like, hey, remember that time we were sick? No, he wouldn't do that. He would only tell the interesting stories, the ones he can remember very well, because they're so interesting. And episodes like Laugh and Laugh, where everybody's sick, he would probably, like, if that actually happened, they were actually sick with the other kids, he wouldn't want him and his friends to be sick during that. And the other kids, since they're not, that friendly, he wouldn't care about them that much. So they were sick, but the Eds weren't. This is just all my proof. And then Eddie, and then seasons 5 and 6, he just starts moving on to, like, I'm guessing like they were in like 7th graders, like something around 7th grade, because they were in junior high, and 7th or 8th grade at least. That's my conspiracy theory, that the whole series of Ed and Eddie is just Old Eddy telling stories to Old Ed and Double D. That is my conspiracy theory. And then for the big picture show, well, we see in Take This, Ed, and Shove It that the kids still don't like the Eds. So I'm thinking, well, maybe Eddie just made up this ridiculous story. Like, maybe the ending didn't happen the way it did. Maybe his brother was still probably a jerk, but at the end of the big picture show, I'm thinking the kids accepting them, I don't think that's how it happened. I'm thinking maybe the kids weren't actually there, and then Ed and Double D like stopped Eddie's brother somehow, and then the kids arrive and beat up the Eds. So that's why I'm thinking they're not actually friends. That was just Eddie come up with a different way to end the story. So that's why my conspiracy theory. Love it, hate it, just, you could argue about it, comment below. And my Happy wants to say something. You have anything to say, Happy? Oh, I scared off. So that's my conspiracy theory. Hey, it's the first one I've ever made, and I personally think it's pretty good, but this is my opinion. I've seen lots of... This is my opinion. So, it's definitely better than the purgatory theory, in my opinion, because, at least this one's happier. So, thank you guys for listening to my conspiracy theory. If you agree with it, just comment below. Okay. So, thank you guys very much for watching. Bye.